Makes sense.
That makes very good sense. We should
Because we
definitely do
say
that.
so.
Fantastic.
Hello.
Hello, I'm so glad to see you today.
It is wonderful to see you and wonderful to be back here with our listeners and Samael, ready for another, no doubt, amazing discussion.
Episode 10.
Oh, I can't believe it.
Holy cow. Yeah, episode 10. Those first nine episodes went quick.
They did. And I find I get excited about our next episode. Like we finish one and I'm super excited. And then we talk about how excited we were. And then I just can't wait to get to the next week when we're going to record. And I feel like just the act of recording these is dramatically increasing and enhancing my spiritual growth and my spiritual knowledge and how I move through the world. So it's a wonderful thing all the way around.
I feel very much the same. I feel like when we record, I'm creating space in my life where I often run from one thing to another, where I know I'm going to be sitting and talking about things and that I have you to bounce them off of. And after a very busy weekend at the Ravenwood Fair, I've just been thinking, oh man, I can't wait to sit and listen to her sing to kind of bring everything internally back into alignment. So I'm so excited to hear you sing today.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, so yeah, let's get to it, huh? So,
Alrighty.
and as I'm singing, for anyone who hasn't, I guess, heard a description of this, I'm creating sacred space is my intention, is calling in all aspects of the divine and asking them to hold this space for us and create this sacred space. So as a part of my intention of the song, and we're bringing in that sacred space for us to sit here. And I realized that the early episodes I would say a lot of it, and I would speak through all of it, and then I feel like really a lot of Samael's thing is kind of just sing, I think, and so I want to let you know I'm still doing that, but I'm now doing it from a different kind of perspective, and I'm doing it more just through channeling, bringing in song from the divine.
Wonderful. So this is a new thing.
Isn't it
I
always?
feel I feel like I say that every time we do this. I'm like, well, this is new. Normally, when normally,
Like there's a normal
normally,
anymore.
like like we're at the point where we do this so often and there's just sort of a pattern. Normally what happens when you sing is I get words from Samael very quickly. This is going to be hard to describe, folks, because you can't actually see us. But for the first time when Jen was singing, and I usually use that time to center myself, what I've been doing is using it to center myself and just kind of open myself up. And this time I got an image, and the image is a symbol. Jen, I'm going to hold it up so you can see it. Hold on. Do you see that right there?
I
So
do.
it's a circle with a point in the middle. And then imagine that it's divided into eight cross sections, eight equal cross sections. So there's and it's, I call it a solar cross in my witchcraft tradition. Jen, in a Marco the other day, I think you described it that there's a name for it in the Christian faith too. Did you
And
say it was a St. Peter's cross when
you
you
know, and
have a
I'm not
circle?
John Philip Newell called it the cross of John the Beloved, or I think he called it St. John's Cross. And it's an equal armed cross within a circle. So the
Yes.
equal arm cross, which it's essentially a plus sign. So think of a plus sign with a circle around it. And when I saw the image that you were showing, a compass is
Huh?
what kind of
Yes.
popped into
It
my mind
looks
as far as
very
just a
much like a
basis for
compass.
something to look at. Like if we start out thinking maybe of a compass, maybe that'll help people to get an idea of roughly what we're talking about.
So if you have a circle that's divided into the 8 points of a compass, north, south, east, west, and then of course the divisions between those, that's the center of the symbol. The north, south, east, and west bars of the symbol extend outside of the circle and have arrow points at the end of them. So those four, north, south, east, and west, if you will, have arrow points outside of them. And then the cross sections have what I can only describe as sort of like lightning bolts coming out of them that mirror each other. And then what was also interesting to me is then on the north, south, east, and west points, outside of the arrow points, if you're looking at north and south, there's what looks like a number eight. And if you're looking at east and west, the eight is tipped on its side for an eternity symbol. And as I was drawing this while you were singing, I was like, oh, this is the first time I'm getting an image. You know what? I'm wondering if there's a way I can sketch this and put it in the notes somehow on the podcast. I'll have to look and
Yeah,
see.
maybe you can also put it on your website and have a
Oh, that would be a
link
good
so that they
idea.
can go and see it maybe on your website.
I have a section for Samael and Lilith on my website. And what I'll do is I'll put a picture of this symbol there, of the sketch that I've done. But on the east and west points after the arrows, the eights are turned sideways to be an eternity symbol. And as I was drawing this, I started thinking about sigils. And for those of you who aren't familiar with it, and I'm not terribly familiar, but I think I know enough to define it. A sigil is a symbol that is used to invoke or draw the attention of a being. And one of the ways that they are traditionally made is that you write the name of the entity out. So if I was doing a sigil for Samael, I would write down Samael in whatever language I speak. And then you remove all of the vowels. So that would leave me with S M, and L. And then you take those three shapes and you rotate them and flip them and connect them until you get a symbol. And then you use that symbol in a ritual to try and draw the attention. Or sometimes you wear it on a piece of jewelry to try and draw the attention of the entity. Now, there are already traditional sigils that are out there that are used for Samael, that are used for Lilith, that are used for a lot of the angels. As a matter of fact, if you were to look at the cover of the book of Samael, there's a symbol right underneath the title, and that's the sigil for Samael that has been used for ages and ages and ages. But just because one has been used doesn't mean you can't create your own. So I was curious after this sketch came out to look and see if I could find an S, an M, and an L in this design. And I realized that the S is in the eternity symbols and the number eight, and that the L is repeated in the intersecting lines inside the circle. But I don't have any, oh, no, no, nope, that's not it. I thought for a second, but I don't have an M. And I said something about there's no M in this. Is this for you? And Samael said, the symbol is incomplete. You will see more of it later. That's what I got while you were singing. So there's a
Okay.
piece of it I don't know yet that's going to arrive later that has something to do with him. So, woo, boy, did you sing today? You sang me straight into a symbol.
My
Um,
goodness.
I don't know if that's because we've been talking about Metatron lately. I just have this strange feeling that there's going to be some more lines in this somewhere that might bring us to a plane or a cube, but apparently I'm not supposed to know what it is yet.
Okay. Well, we will accept the mystery. Today's singing had a different feeling for me, and I don't know exactly what that was either. So that's just an interesting thing for me as
How did
well.
it
And I
feel?
had still, I think, is the best way I can describe it. Like, normally I feel all this energy like pouring through me, and it feels very clear, like there's a lot of physical sensation, and I didn't feel that. I didn't have that. And so I kept doubting, am I actually bringing it through? Am I not in the right place? Am I too in my mind? Like, what's happening? And that was part of why it worked out that the mic wasn't working right, or that it wasn't the right mic, because I was thinking, okay, well, I'm going to do it again, and this time I'm going to feel it, and this time I'm going to feel it, and each time it wasn't it wasn't quite the same. The last time felt more like it, but it was very, very short. So I don't know if I just wasn't, because it's hard sometimes to just step into that place where it's like, boom, all right, now I'm just going to channel something with my voice and I'm going to be like totally in it. So I don't know if it was just taking me a little bit, or if whatever was coming through was different. And because it was a different vibration, it felt different, and it's not what I'm used to experiencing.
So, you used the term stillness, or that there was like a settling. Did it feel like grounded, or did it feel like an absence of something?
I think I interpreted it as an absence, um, because I'm used to feeling something much different. And so it seemed like an absence. But when I thought about it more, when you were asking, what did it feel like? And stillness came through. I was surprised that the word still or stillness came came through. But I did feel grounded. I did feel like settled and grounded. Just my mind would start going, why aren't I feeling what I normally feel? Am I not connected enough? Did I not do something? And I'm like sort of, checking, I've dotted my I's and crossed my T's and stuff. And it's like, well, now I guess this is just how this feels today.
Yeah. So, Sam, I have a little writing from him. He says, stillness, speak more on the stillness, Umshala, the pond before the stone. I don't know if you have anything else to
Okay.
say about stillness, but I think there might be a reason for the stillness here.
Yeah, I think, when I think about it, stillness is described as one of the three inner jewels in, I believe it's Tibetan, wisdom teachings that one of my teachers and mentors, Zakaya Blackburn, and his now wife Dorothy talk about, where they share a lot of Tibetan wisdom, and they talk about stillness as one of those three inner jewels, as this thing to cultivate. And it's both something to kind of cultivate in yourself and also really access, that it's this place where you find the divine. And I think of it a lot. Some people talk about sort of going like into the void, or, in meditation, where there's this place where it's completely, in my experience anyway, in times when we have gone into, spiritual practices and sound practices that brought us into stillness it felt to me, and it looked to me as essentially complete darkness, like that womb of creation, that space of potential, the how we talked, I think, a little bit about the before kind of space, and that in that stillness it feels very, very grounded, very centered, and completely open to possibilities, completely open to everything, and without judgment. It's like what's left after all of the chaos and the noise and the things of life drop away. Then you're left with stillness. Trying to think of what else I have.
Here
And I
is,
Go ahead.
oh no, keep going, keep going. He's telling me to be quiet because you're talking.
Oh no.
He's responding to you, but he just said, no, her. I was okay.
Oh, okay. Um, and I believe, the practice of stillness is considered one of the ways of really of accessing the divine, of accessing you know our inner wisdom, the divinity that's within us, the divinity in all things. It's the place that ideally we would go to in order to be really open and receptive to receiving divine guidance, where we can access total clarity, and the place where we're the most ourselves, because all of the unhealed ego and the culturally created selves, all the things that tell us we are something else, or all the shoulds and all the expectations and all of that drop away. And it's like that perfect point. It's interesting because I had that image again of the point within the circle. And when I had that image this time, when it came to me, it wasn't an empty circle. It was that St. John's cross, that equal armed cross inside the circle, and that intersection of everything in the very center, that was the point of stillness.
Okay. So here is what I have. I feel like you're getting put on the spot by an angel here in a second. He said, "It is time to be still, to find your center and your field. They will need this in the coming days. Expecting patience is too much. You think of before and after, anger and joy, celebration and disappointment, but you can exist outside of these things. The singer will tell her method, and then I will tell mine."
Okay.
So I know that we had spoken when we were talking about this podcast, and shock and horror if something actually happens the way we planned it. Um, we had talked about how in our last two episodes when discussing angels, we started off talking more about Samael, and then we went into Metatron and everything expanded way out. And then we talked about, or you had a really good idea about, as we're finishing up this sort of group of three topics for now, of pulling it back in and talking to people about how they can connect with angels. And this is a very dynamic time right now as we record this podcast. We are between the full hunter's moon and Samhain, when the veil is thin and energies are high. And we are also at a time of, there's an election coming up in our country, and people are feeling stress and anticipation and worry. And I think that the expecting patience is too much. That what he's saying with that, the sense that I get from that is that if we're telling everybody, just kind of put your head down and muscle through this enormous time of seasonal change and um, change all around us, where we often feel like things are out of control and we worry and we anticipate and we think about events as this is before this huge event and this is after. I'm either going to anticipate anger or I'm going to anticipate joy. I'm either going to be celebrating or I'm going to be feeling disappointment. As all of these changes come through, I think he's saying that telling people, just muscle through it, put your head down and push through, be patient, be patient, be patient, is too much to ask of us at this point. And I think he is offering some suggestions on how to exist outside of that state. And then he says, the singer will tell her method, and then I will tell mine. So I'm thinking he wants to hear what you have to say on this topic of, if you feel like you can't wait anymore and you're in a place of sort of worry and chaos and you feel like you're in a holding pattern while everything in your world around you shifts, as it often does this extremely powerful time of year, what can you do to, instead of just somehow or another finding patience you don't have, what can you do to center and ground yourself and move past, connect with the divine so that that helps you to move past all of the chaos of the concerns of this earthly plane?
Okay. So it'll be interesting to see which one of the things I would normally do comes out, and maybe I'll share a number of them, and if there's one that Samael says that one, that's the one that we'll keep. The first thing that comes to mind is something from Heather Knapp, and that it is using the understanding that we have the ability to command our energy systems. So we can talk to our own energy field and we can tell it what to do. This is a program that was created by other more enlightened beings and given to her as something to share with others, as a way that we might come into a more centered place. And it works under the understanding that it is like a program. I think of it like a password, where you may not like the way the password is phrased, and so if you want to change the wording to be something that you like better, the computer isn't going to accept the password. And yeah, you may like it better that way, but if it's not exactly that way, it's not going to work. So the understanding is that this is an energetic program that has been created for us, and that it's important for us to speak the exact words, because those are the words that are built into the program. So we start by saying, and again, when we say this, we are saying this to our energy field, to all that is us. So we say, find my center. And then we just wait for that to happen. We sort of trust and know that our energy field is finding our center. And if you're more sensitive to energy, you're more used to working with energy, you may feel a shift starting to happen. And then you may come to a part where you feel like, okay, and you take maybe a deeper breath, or you have a sense of, okay, I've found it. If this is something that's new to you and you don't really have a sense, just maybe wait 30 seconds, maybe a minute, and then move on to the next step. So first I say, find my center. And then I wait for that to feel like that's happened. And then I say, find my alignment with the planet. And again, you can just be aware of any sensations that you have, and you may have a sense of, okay, this is complete. Or again, you may just go, oh, I'll wait 30 seconds or so and then move on to the next one. But just knowing that it is so because you said it. And then find my alignment with source. And when you feel like you have reached that point, or again, maybe wait 30 seconds to a minute, then you need to vocalize. You need to use your vocal cords in some way. It could be any kind of sound. It could be a hum. But what you're doing is you're making a sound, and that sound is going to transmute the kind of chaotic and unhealed energies in your energy field, whatever unhealed state they're in, into love. And so it's a way of clearing out the energy around you. And again, it's something you just need to use your vocal cords, and you can sound with anything. So it could be like, or you could bark or tweet like a bird. You can make any kind of sound. It doesn't matter what the sound is. You can just tone. If it's more comfortable to you to just sort of pick a note, you can just, hum. You want to do that twice, at least twice. Sometimes you may feel that it feels so good that you want to keep going. So do it as many times as you need to. And so that's one way that I use, especially when I am most at my wit's end, when I feel the least capable of using all of the energetic skills that I have. That's something that I do, because all I have to do is say those words and make two sounds, or the same sound twice. And I have those typed into my phone. And so if I can't even remember it because I'm in that fight or flight state where we can't really access our more thinking brain, just look at it, read it through. You don't have to say it out loud if you're not in a place where you can say it out loud. But that's the place that I start. And then I know I talk a lot about breathing in and out of your heart space. So imagining that very center of your chest in alignment with your heart, and imagine that you can breathe in and out. It's like you have nostrils there, and you can close your eyes and breathe in and out through that space. And as much as you can, imagine that you're bringing your awareness down into that space. And that for me is a place of stillness. It is the center of your heart chakra. It is a place that Jonathan Goldman describes as the location of humility. You can envision it however feels the best for you. Some people have described it as being like an entirely white room surrounded by angels. You can also see it as a place of complete darkness, like this sacred womb kind of place. It's a sacred darkness. It's a holding, loving place, the place that the seed sprouts, or the womb where the baby grows. But bringing yourself into that space and breathing in and out of it will help to bring yourself into a state of coherence where all the different parts of you start, it's like all the different instruments start playing the same note or in the same key, and everything is coming together. And yeah, for me, the idea of coming into a place of stillness is letting everything continue to be how it is, but I step out of all of that and into this place where all is well, where everything is still and quiet. And you can find that place even in the middle of a crowded cafeteria or a concert. You can go deeply within yourself, and there's this place where you can just be and let everything be however it is, and just kind of be and breathe. And some people consider this place of stillness inside themselves. Others consider it as somewhere that you sort of kind of like somewhere else in the galaxy that you can travel to, that where you are. But I think it can be really helpful in keeping us in our bodies and in a grounded place to go deeply within, like this sacred cave kind of place to be. I feel like there was something else that had come in that I was supposed to be saying, and I lost track of it for a minute. Is there another practice that Samael was saying, no, I'm supposed to be talking about something
Oh,
else?
actually, he said, oh, as you were talking about that, he has said, oh, it is very good singer. So
Oh,
I
good.
think this
Phew.
is exactly what he was alluding to. Would you mind just going through the steps? So if someone's listening to us and they're lying in bed right now and their mind, they have what the Buddhists call monkey mind, when your mind's going a million miles an hour and you're thinking of all the things that could happen, that might happen, that would happen, that and you are having trouble with that chaos. Could you just say each of those steps so that the person listening could go through them in order? Would you mind?
Absolutely. So, first, find my center. Find my alignment with the planet. Find my alignment with Source. And take a deep breath and make some kind of sound with your vocal cords. And now do that again. And again, any sound will do. And we'll make sure and type this in like under show notes in a really quick, easy thing so that you can go and you'll be able to see just very quickly, find my center, find my alignment with the planet, find my alignment with source, make 2 sounds. And so we'll put that in there to make it really simple and easy. And I think there are a number of wonderful techniques and people that teach things out there that can help when you're in that really panicked, everything is too much state. EFT tapping is a really, really wonderful way of kind of talking your way through that. And there are lots of guided things that you can do. And we can have like a link to where you can do that. Go ahead. Oh, you look very surprised.
Well, no, it was very interesting because right before you said EFT tapping, Samael said something about touch. And as soon as you started speaking it, he wrote, I'm now saying he wrote, he's basically just using my hand at this point. He wrote, yes, yes, speak on that.
Okay. Yeah. So there is,
I don't know much about EFT.
so
I know a little.
I believe it stands for emotional freedom technique. It has been really, really huge for me in my life and my family in a place of anxiety. So the tappingsolution.com, and this is not the only way that you can access tapping, but it's the way that I tend to access it, and they've made it very easy. So it uses a combination of neuroscience and acupuncture points and neurolinguistics. And it essentially, what you do, there are a series of places on your body that you literally tap with your fingertips. And you tap them on these various points as you talk through something. And there are different philosophies on ways of doing this as to whether you want to talk first through the parts of how you feel, and then you get to more talking your way into how you would like to feel. But you start by tapping like the kind of like the karate chop points, where if you see somebody, breaking a board with their hand, the part that would come in contact with the board. And so you start by tapping those and you say, even though, and then you say whatever it is you're feeling. So maybe, even though I have an incredible amount of anxiety right now, I deeply love and accept myself. And you say that, so you say that 3 times, even though I have whatever it is, even though I'm super, super angry and I feel out of control, I deeply love and accept myself. Whatever the feelings are that you're feeling, you go ahead and you give voice to them. And then you start moving through the various tapping points on the body. And so there's like the top of the head, the beginning of your eyebrows, the outside edge of your eyebrows, under the center of, like on your cheekbone, under the center of your eyes, just this underneath between your nose and your mouth, then right directly on the center of your chin, under your mouth, your clavicles, the center of your chest, under your arms. And so you go through, and as you are talking through how you're feeling, you're tapping these points. And it moves the energy through these points. They are points along the body's energy meridians, like these energy pathways in the body. The meridians are the energy system that acupuncture is based on. And so just like acupuncture or acupressure, you're stimulating these points by tapping them with your fingertips. So you're literally tapping into your body's healing power, and you're helping to move energy through your body. So as you're voicing the feelings that you have, you're helping to move it through and out of you. So rather than having it bottled up and feeling really helpless and out of control, you're getting energy moving, which is going to help you move forward and not be stuck. It's helping to release these things. And as you release them, then it starts to open up the possibility of feeling other things. So you're tapping and you're saying how you're feeling. And then as you go through, you start to feel a little bit more calm. So, and actually, here I'm on the tapping solution thing now. And so it talks about it. And the so it draws on all of these different theories. It includes, modern psychology and neuroscience and cognitive behavior therapy and exposure therapy, neurolinguistic programming, and all of these other things. But what you do is the tapping, it says it sends calming signals to the amygdala in the brain, letting your brain know it's safe to relax. And some of the things that you actually tell yourself are things like, it is safe for me to relax, because we start feeling like our hypervigilance is part of what's keeping us safe. And so when we let go of that, and it's like we start to be able to rationalize, wait a minute, my being anxious is not keeping me safe. It's not changing the situation. It's actually keeping me from being able to respond to whatever the stressor is. And so as you tap through, you're able to come out of the fight or flight response and start to be able to think and process in a better way. It decreases cortisol in the body, and it can be used for absolutely anything. And they have an app where you can just go on the app. You can choose any of these different things: releasing anxiety, losing weight, lack of motivation, stomach issues, depression, whatever it is. And you can follow along with them. So it will show what parts to tap. It'll say what to say out
Oh,
loud to
that's
yourself. So
amazing.
it's very scripted. It's very, very easy. And once you kind of learn how it works, you can be able to tap on your own. But it's very, very helpful, especially when you are in a place where things just feel too out of control, that they're spiraling out of control, to have something to follow. And it has really wonderful explanations of, how to tap, what are the points, the science of it. And there is a lot of science behind this, but it is an absolutely incredible way to help to shift you out of fight or flight, back into your body, get your energy moving, and move the things out. And there are practitioners of EFT tapping that can also help you to deal with really deep-seated emotional trauma, where they will tap through with you and help you to talk your way through and literally move it out of your body, to where you no longer have the same kind of extreme response to whatever the triggers are as you did before, by talking through them and tapping these points as you go.
I am so glad you talked more about that. I am definitely going to try that. I think sometimes we get so into our heads and out of our bodies with worry and busyness and um, thinking about things that aren't in our present moment. But I would imagine just even feeling the tapping itself would be like, hey, you're just right here. You're in your body. I absolutely am looking forward to this.
Yeah, the other thing that comes to me with touch, which was my other big go-to thing, and these are Donna Eden, or Eden method techniques that she has created. And she's someone who has been able to see 9 of our body's energy systems since she was a child. She can see people's energy, their auras, how the energy is moving, and has her whole life. Didn't realize, I think, till her early 20s, that everyone couldn't see this. So there's a big long story with her, and you can find there's loads of information out there, but she essentially cured herself of, I believe it was MS. Like she was told to she had young kids and was told, just get your affairs in order. There's nothing else that can be done. And she started just recognizing, when she placed one hand in one spot and one hand on the other spot, she could see the energy starting to connect between those two parts of her body. And so she would just hold the energy there and get her energy systems to start connecting. And through just trial and error, she ended up completely healing herself. And that was just one of a whole host of major life-threatening health things that she had going on. And from that, she has developed something called the Eden Method and now has practitioners around the world who practice this. But she has a lot of really practical ways that we can calm down our energy systems and that we can, move our energy and reconnect our energy, because essentially it's kind of like having these different circuits or pipes. I like to think of it kind of as water pipes that go all throughout our body that are connecting, sending water from one place to another. It's information, it's, energy, it's, vitality, all of these things. And then we get all of these major clogs and the stuff can't get through. And by placing, it's kind of like the idea of placing your hand on one side of the clog and a hand on the other side of the clog. The energy flows between your hands, dissolves the clog, and then things are allowed to move through. So it's a very, 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 very rough kind of way of putting that. So Donna Eden then has these ways that we can, these movements that we can do where we place our hands on our own bodies and we can redirect our energy. So when things start kind of spiraling out of control, we can bring it back in. And I will say I'm not an Eden Method certified person at all, but you can find these on YouTube very easily. And we can also put some links to some of her things as well. My absolute favorite ones, and my daughter loves this too. We do this all the time. She calls it the triple warmer smoothie. And the triple warmer is a meridian, but it works a little bit different than the meridians. The triple warmer, it controls our fight or flight. And so it has the ability to essentially rob all of our chakras, all of our other energy systems, and take energy from them so that we can, run away from the saber-toothed tiger. I know people talk about this a lot where, we're not facing a saber-toothed tiger anymore, but that email that just really freaked us out, our body responds to it the same way. And interestingly, the only chakra that it cannot take from is our heart chakra, which I think is pretty amazing. So when we are in a state of constant stress, which most of us are, our triple warmer is really overactive and it is drawing and depleting all of our other chakras, the energy from the rest of our bodies and our organs in order to keep us meeting what feels like an immediate threat. And by doing the triple warmer smoothie, what we're actually doing is tracing part of our triple warmer meridian backwards. So it's like taking it and taking all of the stuff that has been kind of taken from those organs and putting it back. And in doing that, it calms that system and it helps our body go, oh, everything's actually okay. And yeah, I think the best thing is just for me to have a link for it, because I realize most of you are not going to be able to see me to demonstrate it.
Yeah.
There's the triple warmer smoothie, but they are like lifelines for me and for my family. Like we will do these when we're like just spiraling out of control. Everything seems like it's too much. It's also a really wonderful way to go to sleep at night. And some of them are actually, it's almost like a hug. Like one hand is over top of your liver and the other hand is just above your opposite elbow. I think they're spleen points. And they help to just restore ourselves some. It just put back the energy to the places that have been really chronically robbed. And especially when we're in a place where we know we're in a really acute state of stress or anxiety. And doing these things throughout the day are really helpful. Also, anything that you can do that gets your energy crossing over. Our bodies are designed to have the energy crossing, like from your left shoulder to your right hip, from your right shoulder to your left hip. Just even rubbing your hands together and placing a hand on your opposite shoulder and dragging it across down to your opposite hip and doing that on the other side. It helps to get our energies crossing over, because what happens is that when we're in some kind of a panic, we become very polarized. Our energies stop crossing over and going back and forth all throughout our bodies, and it becomes more like a number 11. And instead of being an X, we have a number 11, and then we are really not in a place where we can access all of the parts of us, and things are no longer working the way that we need to. And I think about your brain, our left hemisphere controls the right side of our body, the right hemisphere controls the left side of our body. So we know there's that crossover just right there. And when we are in a state of extreme stress and panic or chronic stress, that we're a lot of times we're not aware of the incredible amount of stress that we are carrying, because we're so used to it now. And our hemispheres of our brain stop, all of that crossing over. It's like they're not sharing information as well. And it's so amazing how we're naturally designed to know to do these things. Like the first thing when something terrible happens or you just don't know what to do, you put your hand on your forehead, but you need to keep it there for like 3 minutes or more. Our hands are naturally magnetic, and we place our hand there and it will draw the energy and kind of the electricity, the cerebrospinal fluid. It will draw that back up to your forebrain, which is right underneath of your hand, and it will help you come back to a place of calm. So the simplest thing, if you need something right now, just put your hand across your forehead and leave it there. Leave it there for at least 3 minutes. And Donna Eden always says, we naturally know to do that. Something happens and we just put our head in our hands. The problem is we don't leave them there long enough for them to
Gosh,
really
that's
have the
so
effect.
cool. That's really cool. And I mean, I'm thinking back to just like early childhood development, when you're looking at having the left side talk to the right side, of encouraging children to crawl. And the way that we walk is literally we move our limbs in a cross fashion. That's,
Yes.
and it's making me look back at that symbol that came in when you were singing and going, oh, maybe this isn't a number 8 or an eternity symbol. Maybe this is energy flowing and crossing in the center. Maybe that's actually what I'm seeing, before we knew we were going to talk about it. Um,
Oh, which
really,
reminds me of another thing. There are two
yes.
things. One, you said we learned to crawl and the crossing over. She has something called the cross crawl, which is essentially like an exaggerated marching in place. That's getting that energy crossing over. So anything that you can do that gets your energy crossing over like that, like walking and swinging your arms. So there's some good videos out there on that as well. The other thing, the infinity, Donna Eden talks about, is when you're having a really difficult conversation. And I think this makes a lot of sense for right now, where we're talking about we need a lot of patience. And I know, Sam, I always saying, we can't just rely on patience, but there's so many really challenging conversations happening these days,
That is true.
politically
Yes.
and religiously and in all these things, that when you're in a conversation like that, if you can draw an infinity symbol between yourself and the person, and you can do it with your fingers, like where it's like you're sort of tracing an infinity symbol. Ideally, everybody would be into this, and you would just take your hands and as you're talking, be making this big infinity symbol, like, laying like an 8 laying on its side, and you would just be tracing it with your hands. Because most people are not into that and will think you're crazy, you can just even do it. You can envision it with your mind. You can just kind of see, intend that you're placing an infinity symbol between the two of you, and that it's in constant motion. And there's this constant flow of movement through it. And you can also, with your fingertips, My husband and I do this all the time, like in meetings or things that are really contentious under the table. With our fingers, we will make a small infinity symbol, like with our index finger. And it's amazing how easily, even like with your hand, it seems like you're just talking with your hand as you're doing it, but you're making an infinity symbol in the air. And what that does is, you know, when you're talking to someone and it almost feels like they're just like vomiting their feelings all over you. You know, it's like you feel like
Yes.
you've just been kind of, you're being just sprayed or fire hosed by their opinion, their energy, their negativity, whatever it is. What happens with that, you know, it's like when that happens, that energy just comes at us and it's like it sticks to us and it's stuck there. And instead, with the infinity symbol, it keeps the energy moving and it doesn't deflect it to where you're still receiving the essence of what they're saying, because we want to increase our understanding of each other, but at the same time we don't want to take in and keep the feelings and energies and opinions of someone else. So when we have that infinity symbol continually moving through us, it allows us to take in the information, process it, and allow it to flow back out and back to the other person. And whatever we're saying, it helps that to also kind of get through somewhat of their filters to where they're more likely to understand and get a better understanding of what we're saying. And it keeps the energy moving so that when you walk out of that interaction, you no longer are covered in all of what they have said and stuff. It has moved. You've processed it, it's moved, and then you can walk away, and neither of you are carrying that with you. And it can be incredibly helpful.
Oh my gosh, I'm also adopting that. That just sounds fantastic. And it's so funny because you were talking about, you just used the word flow. And I don't know if we're ready to go here yet, but I was literally listening to you and my hand was just going, writing Samael stuff on the side. Um, but he talks a little bit about, he uses the word flow right at the beginning of what he said. After you began talking, he said, "Oh, it is very good, singer," that he really liked the technique that you had. And then he wanted to remind people who are listening, do not brace yourself slow. When you incarnated, you became anchored in a body. But where does your body end? Your heat, your breath, your perception, your voice all extend beyond your skin. Your attention, your presence, your scent extend outward. They are part of your material field. You are not a thing apart. So he's trying to stress to us that we're not just one point, we are field, right? We are bigger than we perceive of ourselves of being. A lot of us, if you say, where do you end? You go, well, this is where the end of my skin is, so that's where I end, right? I'm a separate and I have a contained vessel. There's a bunch of skin here and it's holding in all of my guts and my blood. And this is the definition of me. And what he wants to say here, and I'm going back to him, when you sing, when you make love, when you nurse a child, you encompass and mix with another's field. You take them in, and they take you in. It is important, most important, to bring balance to your field. Well, okay, okay. Oh, balance. For a minute there, I was like, what does this mean? And now I'm realizing how I need to say it. Balance focus with expansion. So the opposite of focus is that reaching outward. Balance openness with internal creativity. So if you've gone out and spent your whole day being open to others and trying to help them and trying to hold them up and trying to heal them, because I guarantee you probably a ton of people who listen to this podcast are natural healers, that you also have to have a time to sort of internally daydream about just your stuff and letting your mind wander. He says, monitor the field, protect it, and cleanse it, else illness will follow. Remember that you are divine. Feel the edges of your field with your senses. We guard your boundaries. And I didn't ask him to specify who we are, but apparently he's one of them. This is where you will hear us, comprehend your expanse. And then this was neat because the next thing he said was right before you started talking about EFT. EFT, is that right? Do I have it correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
EFT.
He said, touch the space between the eyes 3 times and find a physical release, any form of physical release, laughter, weeping, vocalization, breath. Tapping that space is also a gesture of respect for other souls. It means I am here with you. So I believe, and I was interesting because as you were going down the body, I'm like, is she going to that third eye space? And you went right to the eyebrows on either side,
Yeah,
right?
it's right at the inside point of your eyebrows is the EFT tapping point. It's not the center where we think of our
Sure.
third eye, but it's just
Yes.
off side on either side. There's kind of a groove there. If you push, you can kind of
Yeah.
feel sort of a groove, and that's the where you would take basically your three middle fingers and be tapping in that spot. So it's interesting. So he said tap.
He
Where how
said
did he
tap, but
describe that place again?
okay, hang on. Let me see if I can get this from him. Okay, Samael, where's the place? He says third finger, middle finger only on the third eye. Tap 3 times as to basically call and connect with the divine. We will hear you.
Which is fascinating because if that's the third eye, it's like knocking on the door of your third eye.
Yes. Yes. So I think he's saying his part as a good add-on to what you described when you were, probably half an hour ago when you were walking us through that process of how to sort of find your center point. He is now suggesting that after you have that center, you start to try to feel with your senses beyond your skin, where your heat goes, where your voice goes, where your sensitivity is, how far away your scent is, to realize that you are both a point and a field. And that when you interact with others, sometimes you can encompass them in your field and they can encompass you. But that it's important to go back after these interactions with other energies and say, I need to balance out my field. Now, if we look at, 30 years ago before the internet, we weren't inviting 24-hour news cycles into our houses. But now we have the internet, we have television, we have, all of these things where there are the energies of what other people are feeling. I mean, if you watch a news show and you look at like the destruction from a hurricane or scenes from a war, you feel that energy is coming to you and it's now becoming part of your field as you listen to it, as you saw it, as you sensed the pain that other people are going through. And when we are in this time where emotions are very heightened, but we're also looking at metaphysically, we're at a time when the veil between the worlds is said to be thin. We're also picking up from lots of stuff from other planes. And he's telling us to try to remember that we are more than that, the skin holding us in. But because we are more than the skin holding us in, while we can connect, we also need to be mindful of what we are connecting with. But that at the edges of our field, there are guardians waiting there and watching us, and that we might be able to hear them and connect with them a bit better as we're calming and grounding ourselves, to also just give them that little I am with you gesture of respect. And like you said, sort of knocking on that door of the divine at the third eye. I may be interpreting this wrong, but I've got pages, and that's what it seems like he is trying to get at.
When I feel like he will let us know if we're saying something and we have it wrong, because he seems like he'll start talking and go, oh, no, it's really more like this. It's one of the things that you were talking, two things came to me. One, that while, definitely limiting our internet and our television and all of that stuff makes a big difference, that those who are really empathic and really sensitive to energy or aware, and a lot of people are, but they don't realize it. There is so much energy flowing around. There's so much chaotic kinds of energy and strong, intense energies and thought forms that are floating around now, that you could be on a mountain in the middle of nowhere with no internet, no electricity, and you still may tap into that collective energy, because like he says, our energy field doesn't really stop, and we're overlapping with so much. That I've talked with a lot of energy healers and people that are psychics and mediums, and they're saying they're having such a hard time right now because there's so much circulating, that even though they're removing themselves from these things, they're still feeling the energy. And then the other thing is another energetic skill that you can use. And I love that, he's asking us to extend our awareness and pay attention to and practice sensing where our aura is. And even though my understanding is that it really just kind of just gets less and less dense as it goes out, that there is an area that feels more like there's a division between us and the space around us. And that is a very fluid thing. It doesn't stay. It's not like a shell that's hard and that stays in the same place all the time. When we are really feeling joy and laughter and love, it expands, and it may encompass an entire room or more. And if we're feeling sick or sad or afraid, it kind of collapses in around us. And
Yes.
so it naturally expands and contracts, and we can consciously expand and contract it. So when you're maybe going to go into the grocery store, or you're going to a political rally, or you're going to something where there are a lot of people around and you don't necessarily want to leave with all of their energetic stuff, you can actually contract in, like intentionally sort of wrap your energy field a little bit closer around yourself, so that you're not quite, especially if you're really sensitive to being in public and being around other people, you can kind of wrap that around yourself some, to give yourself a little bit of a sense of buffer. And it'll be interesting to see if Samael is saying, actually, we need to just all be more open and probably fill our energy field with light. um,
No, he's
the
actually, keep going. He's got
okay,
comments on this.
so what I've been taught is that you can pull your energy in around yourself to keep yourself from overlapping with so many other energies as much. And then you can sort of expand yourself out, and you can practice this just right now while we're talking. You can practice feeling into your energy field. And it's at minimum, it's at least like 3 feet out from you. And it's been, our heart energy has been measured by equipment at anywhere from 15 to 60 feet beyond us. So, I mean, we have the capacity to take up a lot of space. And so just imagine, and really it may be just feeling like you're using your imagination right now, because if you're not aware of what this normally feels like, it feels like you're imagining it. But go ahead and imagine it, and imagine expanding it out and imagining bringing it closer and closer in, and just play with this while we're talking, because what you're doing, even though you feel like you're imagining it, it's really happening. But one of the ways that you can help to clear yourself after something like that is that you can actually pull your energy field in all the way right up really close to you, and and essentially let everything that is not you drop to the ground. So I kind of imagine it, there's like this, think of it as like this energetic field within which all of these things are floating. All of these energetic dust bunnies and stuff that you've picked up from other people is floating. And it's like you pull in that energy field that's suspending all of that stuff. And when you get it all the way tight up against you, it all just falls down because there's nothing to hold it up. And then expand yourself back out. And it's like a way of kind of dumping out your pockets and emptying things out so that your energy field then can be more clear. I can't wait to see what Samwell's been saying while I'm talking.
He says, I have done it many times for you. Wings, wings, use the wings, cross them around you. And when I was first in the Blue Ball Inn, the first time I was up in the attic, and it was the second time I had sort of detected a presence there, and I got really frightened. Samael came up behind me and he crossed his wings around in front of me. So there's that cross again, like a protective presence until I felt like everything was okay. So he's telling us we can do that for ourselves. And then he says, use your wings as we do to balance. And I have to look this up, and I'm kind of embarrassed right now that I don't know this. I believe that seraphim are supposed to have six wings. And I think I have read before that one set is supposed to be for flight. I know when I've seen symbols of seraphim, it's like an eye and they have wings around it, multiple pairs of wings. And I remember reading somewhere, I think that the first pair is supposed to be for them to fly. The second was to cover the eyes. And I think the third is to cover the feet, although I don't know what that's for. But instead of for flight, he is saying for protection. So I think he's telling us that energetically, just the way he has protected me before by crossing his wings over me, that we can imagine when we're talking about expanding and pulling in that shield, that it's not, you're right, it isn't a hard thing. He even said earlier that if we focus, the energy comes in. And if we sing, the energy expands, right? But that if we feel the need for protection and to pull things in, we can imagine that our wings are there to do this.
Do you remember when I was saying that I used to work with an energy worker at the very, very beginning, the very first time I ever had an energy healing? And she told me that we had energetic wings. And she
I
helped me
do remember
to like
this.
unfurl and let out my energetic wings. And I could feel them. And it was just like what I imagine angel wings as being. It's like they were kind of tucked just inside my shoulder blades, like between the line of my shoulder blades and my spine. And I got to where I could flex them, like I could open them up and flex them and wrap my wings around myself as protection when I felt like, and like at night, I would like wrap my wings around myself when I was going to sleep. And I know, and my husband was talking about having, at one point, we were having a contentious conversation with someone who was very kind of psychically powerful and had sent out something at me, and that his wings hadn't reflexively, darted out and blocked it. And so I'm wondering, I know we were talking, I was like, at some point we'll have to ask, we'll have to ask
Yes,
Sam
talk
about
about
the wings. And since he's
wings.
talking about that, I'm wondering if that is actually, if it's a more literal wings than just the idea of consciously pulling in our energies, but if he's actually talking about the wings that we had experienced as actually that we actually have energetic wings that we can use.
He says, yes, yes, yes. And I think I told you before that when I was a child, my father used to take me to church. And most of the ceremony, I just sort of sat there and I didn't really understand much about what was going on. But that whenever the choir would sing in this Roman Catholic, like a little mini cathedral in Chula Vista, California, I always had this feeling that my shoulder blades were extending out into wings. And I think it's one of the reasons whenever you sing how I'm so into it and Samael's always into it too. I think there's something about song that kind of activates that. Um oh now I want to look up quick. We've got to look up and see how many wings seraphim have. Let me see.
Okay.
Can we see this? How many wings does a seraphim have? He's just sitting here laughing.
I was going to say, couldn't we ask him? We have one here.
No, but he's saying something that his are different.
Yes,
The
this
word
says
seraph means to burn. Seraphim are considered the highest rank of angels, is often depicted as red-winged. Does it say how many?
this says
Yep, six.
6 wings.
The reason I wanted to look it up is because Samael is sitting here laughing and saying, but I have eight. So I guess he's different somehow. He's laughter, but I have eight.
So why do you have 8, Samael?
A gift. They were a gift.
Well, who were they a gift from?
Lilith.
Well, that was unexpected.
I wonder
Wow, how does that work?
because I straddle worlds. They are not like my others. They are for a different realm. Got extra body parts. So let me see if he says anything. Do you want to tell us anything more about your extra set of wings? Laughs. Not at this time.
I had a feeling this was going to take us into something that is beyond what we're supposed to be learning right now.
Well, apparently he's got an extra set. I don't know how that works, but I don't know how a lot of this works. Well, you
Okay.
learn something every day.
That was fascinating and a gift from Lilith.
A gift from Lilith. I wonder if it's because he travels other places that maybe other angels don't go as often, or he says, not at this time.
Yeah,
Well,
I
I
was going to
guess it'll be
say, he's
something else
like,
to look
that's not
forward
something
to.
for us to get into right now.
Nope, but he just happened to laugh and mention that he's got eight,
Okay.
which is kind of
So
interesting because we have lovely eights in our symbol from the beginning.
it is, isn't it?
Yeah. And wait, wait, wait. When we did the Metatron podcast, we, we had sevens and eights.
And 7 was time, and 8 was eternity.
Yeah, wasn't it like the space outside of time? Yeah, I think that's what we said, or what he said, I guess, because it was him that said that, wasn't it? Now I have to go back and look
Yes,
in
I was
this
going to say
notebook
now we
and try
have
to
to
find.
remember.
I'm like, is this the same notebook? Hold on, hold on. Episode 9, Metatron. Yep, 7 is time, 8 is eternity. What follows 7 is the 8, the 8, the number of eternity. balance of the above and below. Seven is time. Eight is the number outside of time.
The balance of above and below. And
Mhm.
that equal armed cross,
Is
I've heard,
balance.
lots of different versions, but it's essentially a bringing the heaven to earth, sort of in as above, so below. It's entirely
Hmm.
balanced. The idea of the heavens and the earth, and then that horizontal being this is like the plane on which we are manifesting these things, that we're experiencing that, and we're bringing together we're bringing, like heaven to earth in a sense.
Yes. Yeah, and in pagan culture, it's four directions, and you're calling on ancestors and the power of the four directions. And it's that balance. You are standing at the point in the center of your circular field, and everything is in balance, and the energy is coming to you. And I
And
know that that cross has been used in lots of cultures as well.
oh, for sure. And the circle, is holding it. So it's not only like the outside of that field, but it's also like the circle of ancestors, the circle of angels, um and it's being held. That equal armed cross is being held within this circle, which is also a continuous thing, something that has no beginning and end.
Yes, he says the ring around the world, balance is our goal. On earth as it is in heaven. Well, that's straight out of a Catholic prayer. Um, I'm not going to get into asking him what is the definition of heaven because I think we'll be here for another 4 hours. Um, but that as above, so below, that's the same sentiment as on earth as it is in heaven,
Yeah.
right? It's just different ways of phrasing it. Um,
Yeah.
oh,
And yeah, that's another thing that, at this John Philip Newell workshop, he was talking about that Jesus's point was not that we need to be airlifted from ourselves and our sin and things from earth up into heaven, but that we can access that in ourselves, in our bodies, in our experience now, and that he was meant to be showing us as the union of the divine and the earth, that those two can be unified and balanced. Not They're not separate, and they don't exist on separate planes, but they're meant to be in one center place, which also kind of makes me feel like that equal armed cross in the circle kind of thing.
okay. He has a little bit more to say, and it's kind of a big note. So he said, on earth as it is in heaven, when the embodied on earth feel and see and join and trust as the unembodied can, then all will be love and our eternal purpose will be fulfilled. So I think, every time we choose to get dumped back in another incarnation on earth, in this place of strife and war and conflict and division. And we don't remember what it's like to be looking in from the outside as the angels and gods and goddesses, or whatever names we give to the unembodied divine beings. And they're the remembering ones. They watch us here, they help where they can, but they can't just tell us everything or we won't learn it on our own. When us in a state of not remembering can love each other and extend our hands out to each other, it's with the same way that those who are the remembering, who can see the space between lives, who do completely understand and remember that we are all divine and we are all connected, when we get to a place where we accept that love the same way they can currently feel that love, then inside this realm and outside this realm will be in balance, and we will, and our eternal purpose will be fulfilled. And I guess that's as above, so below, on earth as it is in heaven.
Indeed.
I am looking at the time and thinking, this was an interesting one because we have both some practical applications of how to make it through whatever you're going through, how to reach out and feel, and also how to find that center point and ground yourself. And remember, no matter what happens ahead of us, we can't control it. So worrying about it, I mean, be active and do your best, but bracing yourself all the time wears you down. So if we can try to flow instead of becoming stagnant, if we can get that energy moving by tapping all through ourselves and extending our song and our love to each other, if we try to flow, we're going to be in a much better place during challenging times.
And as I'm thinking of the things that he was telling us, we can start practicing this week, stretching out tapping into our angelic wings, our energetic wings, and expanding those around us and becoming more aware of our energy fields, and know that we not only have these energetic wings, but that we can wrap ourselves in them and
Yes.
use them for protection. And then when we need to access the wisdom of the angels and the guides, to tap 3 times on our third eye with our middle finger. And interestingly, the main point that I had wanted to come into today's podcast was also that we are not alone. Like, that was the number one thing that I really wanted to be able to get across, because we've talked about all of this philosophical stuff with angels and gotten way out there, but that really my goal with talking about them originally was that you're not doing it alone, and that we can call on them. And while we're learning specific ways and added tools with Samael of, saying Metatron's name 7 times and tapping our third eye with our middle finger 3 times to kind of focus in on them, that there's really no wrong way, as far as I know, to call in angels. And you don't have to know their names. You don't have to know a specific way. The only thing that you really need to know is that they are there. They are an embodiment of divine love, and they are there for you all the time. And you never ever need to be alone or feel alone unless you choose to block yourself off from that. But that you can call them in these times when you are having all the types of feelings that we've been talking about. You can do these practical things, which I highly recommend, and you can call in angels to help to hold you and support you and be there with you, and know that you are never alone.
Samael says, "You are never alone. You may not hear us, but we are here. We are here. We are here. I wish you peace, children." So I guess that's it for this week.
Yeah, what a perfect place to leave it. I'm unsure if normally I would sing. I'm not sure if I should sing or if we should just leave it there.
Samael said, "Sing, always sing." Um,
Okay. Sounds good.
I'm sorry, I just realized how bossy he was. You don't have to sing if you don't want to.
Oh, I will always sing. As I think I've said once before, when the seraphim says sing, I say how long and how loud.
just a he's a gente singing junkie. You got a compliment.
Wow.
He
Really?
says, he says, most beautiful, Umshala, most beautiful. The others here with me are nodding their heads.
Wow. When I started, I could tell I was being told to sing this high note and I was thinking, I'm not sure I can hit that note. That's high. But I could see a column, an intense, almost blue white, intense column of light. And this, you probably saw me tracing it in the air, this like
Yes.
almost like double helix thing, like kind of crossing back and forth and back and forth. And I could feel it so strongly, like all the feeling that was not there at the beginning. My whole spine was like just vibrating out of the stratosphere.
He just went tap, tap, tap. My regards.
Thank you, Samael. I appreciate that.
You're getting an honorary tap, tap, tap. My regards.
I am profoundly honored.
Well, is it for this week. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. We hope you have safe and peaceful travels as your as you continue on your way in this incarnation. We'll see you next week.